Nigeria for a day or so, coming back home. For the first time, I was able to be in Nigeria for a year. Sorry, my language. I was in Nigeria for like 7 days, 6 days. I was shocked at how those people relate to us. It's crazy. One of the things that I must say is that Nigerians are not good in communication generally, which is sad, because I think they've got a lot to say. They have a lot of good people in their country. Their country is dominated by positive people who are hungry, who work hard, and unfortunately, in our country, those who come, actually I'm talking about Lagos, those who come to our country are not all of them, of course we've got professors from Nigeria and many other good people, but those who are interacting with our people on the ground are giving Nigeria a bad name. And I think it's time we travel as South Africans, because traveling will assist us to understand other countries even better. Because I can assure you that Nigeria is a wonderful country with a lot of positive people. Two important countries in the continent, Nigeria and South Africa, need to find a way of dealing with each other. Because I can assure you, if we can bridge the gap between South Africa and Nigeria, a lot of positive things will happen. I can assure you, Nigerian people are hard workers. Ordinary Nigerians, they're hard workers, they're educated, and actually they treat people with kindness. They are amazing. And my belief is that when you have these two powerhouses coming together, a lot will happen. But you will need to go and see these things for yourself, because unfortunately, when you are in the comfort of your house, you start believing that this is how life is, and life out there is completely different. Of course, the person who suffers in Nigeria is but one thing that we must appreciate is that they've been liberated for far too long than us. They've got a lot of experience. And I'm telling you now, we need to travel Africa as a continent. In South Africa or in many other countries, when you get money, the first thing you want to do is to go to Dubai and so on and so on. There are a lot of opportunities out there. And I can tell you, there are a lot of good people out there in Nigeria. In Nigeria, there's 230 million people. It's a huge market. A huge market. A typical example. A lot of people in Nigeria love Mapiano. Love Mapiano. There's no club where you go to Nigeria they don't play Mapiano. Aiko. But a lot of people in Nigeria don't know Mapiano artists except Maporis. Kabza the Small. They know a name, Scott Mapuma. Why? And we know they are stars, by the way. Why? It's because we don't work the ground. We go to these continents, we go to these countries, we go in, we come out. We don't sit, understand the place, and see how do we get opportunities, how do we collaborate with our African brothers. We have to do that. People like Dangote, Patrice Motsepe, who've got access, yeah, to resources and many other things, should be coming with serious concept to say, how do we make sure that we negate many of these things? Where are the opportunities where we can plug our African brothers, work together as Africans? The continent is infiltrated. We've been able to produce bourgeoisies that are supposed to be progressive, But the only thing that our people are thinking about is how do I buy a house in Dubai and how do we make sure that we invest back into our continent? I'm making Nigeria an example. I can assure you, just on 6 days, and I'm just making an example, 6 days that Nciza has spent in Nigeria, there are few artists in this country that can stand with him in that continent, purely because he was prepared to know their food, know their people, do their interviews, know their culture. They appreciated him as a person, knew him as a human being, knew his behavior. They know he's an African boy who comes from Johannesburg, who believes in African unity. So I'm saying, South Africans, there is a lot out there, a lot, including in Nigeria. On a lighter note, our sisters in South Africa are still very hot. You find them in the flights everywhere, going to Niger. The bad part about it is that when you see them, they feel like ish. And that, for me, is a no-no. It can't be that we are that backwards. It can't be. There is something extremely wrong with our behavior. We need to deal with the certain behavior of Africans in general. We need to start by embracing each other, understanding that certain life is just not about being comfortable at home and undermining other African brothers and sisters. Of course, those who are rotten potatoes, the government must deal with them. But one thing I criticize many Nigerians was that they allow criminals to represent their country, and they should find a way of dealing with that without even protecting them. They need to find a way of raising their voice as Nigerians. Because in South Africa, when there's xenophobia, we raise our voices. We say not all of us are xenophobic. There is a problem of criminals who are doing this and that. We raise it. They need to raise their voices as Nigerians. Is one criticism that I raised with their ambassador, I raised with the many people who are in Nigeria when they were saying was xenophobic in South Africa. I was very much upfront with them, including many of their leaders who wanted to engage with me when I was in Nigeria. Wanted to understand. I told them that they are criminals that you must deal with, but not all Nigerians are criminals. I can tell you that for free. In fact, it's a fraction of people. Imagine a country with 200 and something million people. If everybody was a criminal, that country would collapse. So there's nothing like that. But as Africans, we need to explore Africa. We need to tell ourselves it is important that I go to Mauritius, not only for holiday, but also just understand this country. I need to go to Angola, I need to go to Tanzania, I need to go to all these countries. I am telling you for free, if South Africa and Nigeria was to come together, not only at the cultural exchange point of view, including businesses coming together, legitimate business people, because they're men. And it's easy for you to find out who is a legitimate, who is a proper businessman. You go to embassy. You look at the data. You look at all of that. You use intelligence to actually look at, is this person a legitimate businessman? And there are many of them who are. So I'm saying, South Africans, it is our responsibility to come back and engage. Go to Ghana, for instance. Beautiful people, very humble, very welcoming. In Accra, there are a lot of opportunities in terms of property development there. They are looking for partners. We need not to allow this education system that said to us as South Africans, just go to school, come back from school, look for a job. Because our education, just on that, I find it to be very problematic. Because we don't prepare a society that must be at work or that must develop. We prepare a society that must just serve a particular master. We need to travel, Banbasekai. We need to change our thinking. We need to stop looking at other Africans as you go to the airport and somebody asks you, so we are going to be taking inside Africa. That time you are in the south of Africa, at the bottom of Africa. You are an African. We need to change that particular mentality. Europeans come and take everything from Africans. We don't know how to keep things together and exchange ideas. Burkina Faso, with all its problems, and the president that would have staged a coup d'etat. There are many good things that are coming from Burkina Faso. What is it that we must learn from Burkina Faso? Those are the things we should be talking about. Of course, we must talk about free trade in Africa. But as long as we've got leaders and those who are at the helm of leading, are always obsessed about how, in South Africa, we've got 52 mineral resources. 52. We need to get closer to our African brothers. We need to be one. The world is in conflict. And many things are happening. How do we make sure that we are able to find expression at the level of business besides going outside of Africa? I'm saying, of course, we need the whole world. We know that. And I must not be misinterpreted here. And I'm not saying we must open borders. I'm saying let's do things legally. But let's engage other African brothers. Anybody who's doing crime, I'm very much clear. You can't come into our country and you must be allowed. It can't be. But at the same time, we can't want not to engage and get into business with other African brothers. We need each other. South Africans, I can assure you, I went to Tanzania, an amazing country that is led by a woman there. The leader there is the leading party is Chama Pendu. It's a liberation movement. It's actually the only liberation movement that has been able to hold on to power for such a long time. Even now, Abaka Wishif. So, what does it mean? What are the lessons that we must learn? When Chama Penduga was losing power, the first thing they did was to strike the belly of the beast, which is the economy. Where is the economy of this country? We need to engage on those issues later on in our discussions. But we also need to say, when are we having a bigger discussion about retaining the power? Because we are not having those discussions. Our discussions is how do we divide each other even further so that we can lead with other people. How do we close ranks so that we can fight for the economy? Because as long as we don't close ranks, we will never be able to do that in South Africa. By the way, let me leave that. I'm not here to speak politics. I'm just speaking social issues, economic issues. Guys, we need to open up to other African countries. We need to engage them. But we also need to tell them, in our country, you are represented wrongly because of criminals that are coming from your country. You must speak loud against that. We must tell them. But we must tell them that they are welcome into our country because they are our brothers. But we must do legitimate business, proper business trade. I saw that. I'm saying just on a lighter note, Nciza is going to do something huge with big Nigerian artists. And somebody will say, but Nigerian. Of course, he's not going to do anything with David or Burna Boy. He's going to do something with his peers. Why it is important? The diaspora is dominated by Nigerians. They've got the biggest number. They travel. So when you want to have a true African star, not a true African superstar, you need to engage African countries. That's why you must go to East Africa, be based there, sit there, Southern Africa, make sure every corner of the continent understands you, accepts you, is with you. You move from the West Africa, East Africa, you go to West Africa. Then you are building a an African star. I'm making an example using music. Yeah? I'm making an example using music. You go, once you have every corner of Africa says, we know Caesar, I am assuring you, it's easy for you to break out in the world. As I'm speaking to you, 5 biggest DJs, including Rempa, who's the biggest DJ in the world currently, has got the remix of Caesar, Isaac. Franco has got the remix of Isaac. Venko has got the biggest dance floor DJs ever, because Africa is saying we are with you. We have all suffered under criminals from South Africa, criminals from South Africa, criminals from Nigeria. The crime that is brought by, a violent crime that is brought by guys from Zimbabwe is bad in our country. But how do we deal with it? It's very important. So I'm just saying, we are appreciated, we are loved. There will always be elements that of wrong things. You know, people want to talk about criminals on the basis of what they see. Counter-revolutionary forces and big business came into our continent and took everything and left us with nothing, including dignity. But the biggest crime to humanity, to us, is other African brothers and sisters. And I'm not saying it is right. I'm saying they must come illegally, we must go to their countries legally, we must do business with them legally. But this notion that says our African brothers and sisters are more of our enemies than anybody else, I say we must fight against it and defeat it. Because if we come together, we'll be a stronger nation. So those are some of the lessons I would have learned, and I always knew, but I was very much impressed and encouraged by my interaction with people in all these African countries. Kenya was special. I found young people. Caesar's Palace, which is a concept by Caesar, he partnered with one is 22 and one is 20-year-old young person. I mean, I know when I started TS because I was 24, but these guys are kids, young boys, crazy. They did one of the best events I've ever went to. Crazy. Why? They have a drive. They are looking for opportunities and they execute. They're not sitting in a corner and say, we are Nyiwa. Yeah? 22-year-old and a 20-year-old. 5,000 people, packed event. So the intercontinental trade is one of the things that we must force. But nevertheless, I want to say these are the experiences that we would have picked up in some of these countries. But also I wanted to encourage those who want to do business and those who are in business, go and check out these countries. The restaurant business in Zimbabwe is crazy. I know they are under sanctions, But the issues of food security in Zimbabwe is crazy. There's a lot of opportunities there. You know, I'm going to Zambia over the weekend. So I'm saying people are longing for music. They're looking for anything which is South African. But you can't want to just think you can give people a song and stay at home and be happy by playing at this event or that event and so on and so on. Go out there so that we can build South African stars, so that we can be exposed. Culture is at the center of everything. I always say music speaks all languages. There's no language barrier when it comes to music. On a lighter note, mates are like us, and they've seen this thing long before us. In the flight, sister and they were peel and they have a right. That's the reality. And let me young ada. I force that much die flop. Bashapu mara. But look, if there's anybody who wants to have a conversation, you can come in. But like we say, from next week, we'll speak about a number of things, anything. Mental health of young men, GBV in the country. We'll speak about anything. But I'm asking that, guys, let's have a conversation that is positive, that is building. Let's not have conversations that about ANC. I know I'm an ANC through and through, but when I'm in this platform and engaging people, I'm not partyism, I leave it outside. I'm just engaging South Africans.